Okay, Michael, we're live, so you can start whenever you're ready, or whenever all the rest of the members are here.
Yeah, okay, I'll have to wait for quorum. That's right, I just see Danny back. I guess I can start reading the opening remarks in any event. I don't think I need quorum for that. Good afternoon. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating today are Danny Bellissimo, Donald Taylor, Laura Alderson, and Neil Palmer, and I am Michael Clark, the panel chair. And all registered participants will be participating by audio only. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to several properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and in the event of an appeal, the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, and in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The hearing procedure will be as follows. I will call each item in the order listed in the agenda. We will first, however, clear some deferral requests, either planning staff set out in a memo that we receive and were requested by applicants, and we'll deal with those at the outset. Then we'll go back to the top of the agenda, item number 21, and hear applications in order. In making your submissions, when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with a presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and or then take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and staff will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. And at that point, we'll ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make their presentation to the committee. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised, in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their submissions. And when all finished speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues and answer those questions that were raised by the speakers, not to introduce new information. That will then mark the end of the discussion, and the application is then taken into committee for a decision. Preliminary matter, are there any declarations of panel or staff to declare for the matters in the afternoon time slot? Okay, if none, I guess we should deal with the deferrals. We have quite a number. We'll deal with them in order. It's going to be item 21, 22, 23, 27, and 30, 32 and 33. So we'll deal with those so those people can get on with their days and don't have to be online waiting to have their matter heard. Okay, so let's get the speakers list. So the first one, I guess, is the first one on the agenda, 150X Edenbridge Drive. It is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, but we have a request from community planning on their memo for reason D3. Perhaps staff, what is the reason? I don't have the list in front of me. Can someone just let me know what the that memo reference means? Because I'm trying to find here's my list. Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
reason number 3 is in order for staff to consult with other city departments, divisions, and/or external agencies to obtain information clarity on the proposed minor variance and/or consent application.
Okay, thank you for that. So this application, we have registered to be David Engelman as the agent for the applicant, as well as 3 neighbors. And I guess in these cases, as item given reason number 3, the applicant may not necessarily agree to the deferral request. One of the other ones, I think 1 or 2, refers to where actually the applicant is the one making the request, or where it's automatic because there's a notice issue of something that precludes us from proceeding. So I think we have a couple of we have a D3 in this case anyway. So let's hear from David Engelman on the matter of deferral.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Through you, Mr. Chair, I actually did submit a letter. It should be within the committee's package that I am in agreement to the deferral, and we are requesting deferral of the application to further consult with planning staff as well as the neighbors regarding this application.
Okay. So we do have a few other people on the line. Typically, we just, as a matter of practice, touch base with them as their position on the deferral, and typically it's something in the purview of the applicant, and the neighbors are not in any way prejudiced, other than having come on the line here today and having to do some, but there's an opportunity to perhaps improve the application through some negotiation or whatever. So I'll just briefly, has anyone, first of all, have any questions for Mr. Engelman on the deferral? And otherwise, I'll just check in with the 3 other people just to just formally get their position on the deferral. So no questions?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. The Goshulacs at 138 Edenbridge will actually be represented by Amber. So.
Okay. Okay, so we have the 2 neighbors, Walter Lowe's and Amber Stewart, solicitor acting as agent on behalf of the next, not the next door neighbor, but a neighbor. So is Walter Lowe's on the line?
Hello, I am.
Mr. Lowe's, I don't know if you've been listening in. This matter, the applicant and city planning are requesting deferral, and hopefully it's a chance to, because they're going to try to improve the application. So just formally, as a courtesy, just checking in. The matter is being deferred. I trust you are in favor.
I am in favor.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully, the application will be improved, and you will be re-notified if you were notified and within the radius or however you found out about this application. Thank you very much, sir. And then Amber Stewart representing the neighbor at 138.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. And my client is actually the next door neighbor, despite the jump in numbering. And yes, I can advise we are also supportive of the deferral request.
Yeah, I was imagining there was something going on with the numbering because for a neighbor further afield to hire learned counsel. So hopefully this will improve and there'll be an opportunity. I assume I don't know if there's any lines of communication open between you and the neighbor or your clients and their neighbor. But we'll hopefully see you here another day.
Thank you, sir. It's been a long time since I've been called learned, so
Okay.
that's made my day. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Okay. I did my good deed for the day. Okay, so back to committee staff. Can I have a motion to defer, please?
Danny Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Thank you, Danny.
Happy to support that motion by seconding it.
Okay, all in favor? The matter is deferred. Okay, the next application, item number 22, 85 Ravensbourne Crescent. Again, this is for a covered rear yard deck with 3 variances. We have a deferral memo from staff, number D2. Mr. Taylor, what's D2? I'll rely on you as the expert.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, it's in order to.
I'm only an expert in that I know how to read.
Yes, I can read too.
Okay.
I've got it right here in front of me.
What's
Number
D2?
2, in order to provide adequate time for staff to appropriately review the application and to discuss any concerns, obtain potential changes, and/or secure revised submission material from the applicant for minor variance and/or consent applications.
Okay, thank you. So we only have one speaker, the agent, Edward Broders, as the agent for the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Broders.
Hello, I'm here, Edward Broders.
Okay, welcome. I'm just weighing in on this issue. As you may know, I hope you do. It's not a surprise to you. You are on a list from community planning indicating they would like to have this matter deferred for the reason that was just read. Are you in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear. Okay, there's no other speakers registered, so I'll just
Happy to make a motion for deferral
thank you. Ms.
based on number 2.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, yeah, I don't see everyone's hands. Okay, matter is obviously unanimously approved, but matter is deferred. And these are not to specific dates, they're just deferred until they're ready to be put back on. Item number 23, another D2, 1331 Martin Grove Road. We have one speaker, Joshua Sukra, on this item. And again, it's D2. Is Joshua on the line? Do we have a Joshua on the line?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
This is an application for landscaping and parking deficiencies. Are you, staff wants it deferred. Are you okay with that deferral? Or are you also in favor?
I am in favor.
Okay, very good. And in that case, committee members, can I have a motion to defer item number 23?
I'll make that motion to defer based on item number 2.
Thank you. Second for that motion.
Danny Bellissimo.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, that matter is deferred. Next one is item number, tell me if I miss any, 27, 379 Prince Edward Drive North. That's for, again, D2. And I'm just trying to find who the speakers are for this. We have David Eagleman again, and the neighbors at 381 and 384 Prince Edward registered to speak. Mr. Eagleman?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we are requesting deferral of this application as well to further consult with planning staff and to consult with the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. I see that in the additional materials that you're also requesting. Okay, so I guess we just have to check in with the neighbors. Briefly, the neighbor at 381, Mr. and Mrs. Percy. Are you okay with the matter being deferred?
We're okay with it being deferred. We have two of the variances, the oversize of the house and also the side yard setback on our side.
Okay, so
But we should point out that our neighbor at 383, Sherry Ahmed, has found a couple of other problems relating to
I'm going to be speaking to her next. She's also on the line. I have her at 384.
Yes, so we would point out those two additional ones. So we would support deferral.
Thank you very much.
These are serious variances.
Yeah, hopefully things can will improve and there'll be some negotiation. And both parties are asking for planning as well as the applicant himself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next speaker is Sharia Ahmad at 384 Prince Edward.
Shahryar, you have been unmuted.
379. I also looked at the house on.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you right now.
Okay, so
checking in on the matter of the deferral, just as a courtesy, but the applicant and planning has requested a deferral of this matter, so we won't be proceeding today. Just wanted to touch base and get you on the record.
We're in agreement with the deferral.
Okay, thank you. And you're at 384, correct?
I think you're at 383.
Okay, because you're on my list at 384, but I just heard your neighbor, Mr. Percy, say you were at 383, so I wanted to clarify. So duly noted, you're at 283. Thank you.
383.
Thank you. Okay, members, motion to defer. It looks like everyone's on side.
Danny Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded by Mr. Taylor. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. The next deferral, and almost at the end of these, is item number 33, 14 Bolger Place, or Bolger.
Mr. Chair, I think it's actually number 32 and 33.
Oh, okay, so let's do 32. I missed that one. 32 first. It's both of them. Okay, 31 2nd Street, item number 33. 32, it's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 9 variances, and it's D1. And the agent for the applicant is Mrs. Evangelista, and then there's several neighbors registered as well from 30, 33, and 32 2nd Street. Mrs. Evangelista, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Members, Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owner of 31 2nd Street. It's just very recent come to my attention that the planner could not determine the side yards on the site plan, and I take it that is the reason for the deferral. I am in acceptance of the deferral so that we can clarify this. This is an existing home that we are building a 2nd floor on. I would also like to make it known that I did reach out to the neighbors that have sent in the opposition, but I will have the owner approach them.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Evangelista. We're just going to check in with those neighbors just as a courtesy.
No problem.
Today. So the first neighbor is 32nd Street, Barbara Zilski or Arthur Wazowitz. I hope I'm...
Hello.
Hello. Is that Arthur Wazowitz?
It's Barb Zilski.
Barb Zilski. Okay, we're just touching in base about the matter is being deferred, and you're registered to speak. So we just wanted to get you on the line and formally ask you if you're in favor of the deferral. Hopefully things will improve. They're fact finding and come back another time, but the matter is required to be deferred for reasons. So just you're okay with that?
We're okay with the deferral. We did receive a package in our mail slot, but no one has actually approached us physically.
Right. Okay. So perhaps that'll be done. We just wanted to go on the record on that, and you will be re-notified when this matter is brought back on in whatever iteration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Next
Too.
neighbor is 33 2nd Street, Claudia Molina. Just on the issue of deferral.
This is Claudia.
I just wanted to touch base. We're not going to be proceeding today. You're listening in. The matter is being deferred, and you are registered to speak. So you will be re-notified at a later date. In whatever iteration it comes back, if there's modifications, you will be notified.
Okay, fantastic. With ample time, please.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
If I could ask for ample time when we get re-notified.
Well, the notification is the statutory notice that's provided under the Planning Act. So you'll get whatever notice is required to be given. That's all I can guarantee. That's all I can tell you. Okay, so in the meantime, if there's any negotiation between neighbors, hopefully that's ongoing. I see you're right next door. So just wanted to touch base on the deferral, because we won't be considering the merits today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the last neighbor on the line is 32 2nd Street. Looks like right across the street, Linda Bem.
Yeah, this is Linda Bamey at 32 2nd Street, and I am in favor of the deferral at this time.
Okay, thank you. You'll be re-notified. We'll see you back here again if you still have issues. Members, can I have a motion to defer?
Danny Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Thank you. Seconded by
Second it.
Laura Alderson. All in favor? Matter is deferred. Thank you. Someone's typing me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on a deferral is the next item number 33, 14 Bulger Place. Thank you for catching that I missed 32. So we're now on to 33. Enrique Valencia is the owner or the agent. And good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm Enrique Valencia, the agent for 14 Bulger.
Okay. Are you in favor of the staff request for a deferral?
We are not in favor, and just because I did reach out to Tamur Chad, and we both actually came into an agreement that presenting was the best case. He did get a chance to review it. He just there's
okay.
communication.
You know what? In case, I'm going to put you back on, and we'll deal with the matter in due course. Then.
Okay.
Put you back on hold. Okay, and I think we have members. One or two more. It's 37. Do we have any other deferrals?
Mr. Chair, 37 was originally requested for deferral by transportation, but in our additional information, transportation has said they're okay with the application.
Okay. Yeah, site plan. Oh yeah, no objection. Okay, I see that. Okay, so let's go back. I guess we can finally, now that we've cleared all those from the agenda, we can go back and start hearing applications on the merits. First one, I take it, is item number 24, 541 Kipling. And that is an application to construct a new one-story warehouse building. And we have two variances, both related to driveway widths and parking variance. Looks like it exceeds a maximum. We have a cover letter, two cover letters, photos, and an arborist report. That's all we have on this application. And the speakers on this application are just one speaker, Rob McFarlane, of agent for the applicant. Mr. McFarlane, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. We have your two cover letters. I don't believe we need a presentation and your photos. Was there anything you'd like to advise the committee? Otherwise, I'll just see if anyone has any questions for you.
Nope. Just if there are any questions available to answer those, and this is proceeding through a site plan approval application. These variances were identified through that process, and staff have thoroughly vetted those variances through that. We discussed those variances with them through that process. So again, happy to answer questions that you might have.
Okay, members, any questions?
So I have what, excuse me, I have what may be a silly question. Why replace a one-story warehouse with another one-story warehouse? Is it a larger footprint?
It is, but through you, Mr. Chair, it is a smaller footprint. It is an older warehouse building or an older industrial building. It's to accommodate a new tenant, is my understanding. It is just an older building at this point.
Okay, that
Okay,
answers the question, I
Okay.
guess.
great. Any other questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bedismo's ready to weigh in with the motion. This is a huge site, and a little difference will not make a difference to anybody, so I find it's minor in nature and move for approval.
Seconder for that is Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. McFarland.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Okay, our next application is item number 25. 63 Savona Drive. It's for one-story attached garage on the west side. There is one variance. If there's seems to be truly minor. Setback is 1.2 meters. They're at 7.6. We'll hear from Mr. Cunha, Ian Cunha. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ian Cunha representing the owners of 63 Savona Drive.
Yeah, we have absolutely nothing on file on this other than the plans submitted.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you'd like to advise the committee, or I'll just see if any questions or if someone's ready to weigh in with them?
I will answer any questions if necessary.
Okay.
Happy to make a motion if no one has any questions. Very straightforward application, meets the 4 tests, and I move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconded by Mr. Palmer. Thank you. All in
Thank
favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Cunha. We'll see
Thank you.
again.
Have a nice afternoon.
Okay, item number 26, 1441 Islington Avenue North. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with a detached garage. 6 variances. We have supporting material and an applicant's presentation. Urban Forestry looking for condition 2. Planning has conditions. They want, the condition is to refuse 2 variances and impose conditions, refuse 4 and 6, and impose conditions on 5 and 6. And transportation is looking for a deferral to allow applicant to address points 1 to 7 in their memo. In the additional materials, I believe we have some revised plans and comments from the applicant. So as that says, my introduction, including the request by for a deferral by transportation. The speaker on this matter is Mario Lenardi, and as well we have, looks like one of the owners of the property will not be speaking, and the neighbor next door at 1443 Islington.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
You
Chair.
have one.
We did make an
Yes.
effort to reach the neighbors at 1443, but they weren't responsive. So I don't believe that they'll be joining us at this time. They'll receive a copy of the decision via email.
Okay, and they did not weigh in with a letter or any sort, so we don't know what they were on the line for. Okay, so let's hear from Mario Lenardi, the agent for the applicant.
Okay, I'd like to start out.
Please start off by addressing the request for a deferral by transportation. The members will want to hear about that.
Okay, so we basically addressed all the transportation issues in the new proposal that we did. They were fine with it. They had made some comments on some technicalities of some information that has to be added on the drawings, which is not a problem. But as far as the issues that the transportation had commented on, we've addressed them all. So we're within the 10%, 1 to 10 slope. We are at the elevation that meets their requirements. And further that note, we've also improved the height of the original plan, that placing the garage lower than we originally had.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. In addition to the transportation deferral request, we have a memo from community planning where they're requesting that the committee refuse variances 4 and 6 and place conditions on variances 5 and 6. I trust that you've seen that memo.
Yes. So to our argument with that is that our garage is no lower than the garage 2 doors to the south. So the property just adjacent to us is lower than us by 3 feet, and then the property to them is lower by another 3 feet. Our garage level would be at least at the same height as the property to the south of the property just south of us. So we understand that the community planning's comment, but we have a specific type of lot here where our lots start tearing down towards the lake on Islington. So they start stepping down. And we thought because of that is an opportunity to take advantage of putting our garage below the floor, the ground floor, to utilize the space on the ground floor.
Okay, so you do not agree with the refusal of variance 4 or variance 6?
No.
And my next question is, if the committee does not agree with you and agrees with community planning, does that render the remainder of your application sort of like a nullity? You can't build it, so there's no point giving you the balance of your variances, or can you make revisions within the other variances given to proceed? So should community planning in that case say just refuse the whole application because you can't do it without 4 and 6? That's my question.
Yeah. So to make an argument to the community planning's issues, is our client has developed a deck that shows many properties in the area with similar proposed driveways that we've proposed. We don't understand they're all zoned in the same zoning. We don't understand why these were permitted, but our specific property was not. You know, especially that our property is the grade elevations don't make it obvious that garage level would be much lower than the garage level to the south of us.
Okay. So again, you didn't answer my specific question, because I want the members have to know whether if they're inclined to refuse variances 4 and 6 as requested by community planning, should they be just refusing the whole thing, or can you still proceed with the remaining variances to build something? That was just the basic. You gave me the merits, and I appreciate that. We're going to get to that anyway.
Okay, so
that's my question: whether the members need to know whether, in other words, sometimes community planning says don't give them a GFA. They're going from 0.4 to 0.8.
Right.
But they don't say to refuse the balance of the application is moot if they don't get the GFA variance. So I'm just asking you, is your application doable without variances 4 and 6?
It is not.
Thank you. Okay, so please continue then with on the substantive reason why the members should not agree with community planning and giving you these 2 variances.
Yeah, so our client invested a lot of time to research some of the properties in the vicinity of this specific property, and found quite a few properties with a reverse slope and similar situation to ours. Now, the major differences between our properties and those properties is those properties are generally all on flat land, so the neighboring properties are on similar slopes of theirs, where ours is on a slope. So in ours, it wouldn't be as predominant as some of the other buildings that have already been built with the reverse slope. In our opinion, I don't think you're going to see the reverse slope on our building as much as you would see in specific buildings that were built within the last 25 years that have a reverse slope.
Okay. Are you that to the end of your presentation?
So going back to the level of the garage, we've raised that footprint to make it less of a slope. So I just want to add that our garage now sits about 1.1, about 1'7" above the street, which would put our drainage, if there's an issue with drainage, we would be considerably lower than the street drain connection. So we'd have enough slope plus the 4-foot coverage. We're confident that that would be a case. So if it's from a draining standpoint where water would be an issue of flooding, I don't think this would be in this circumstance.
Okay. Sir, in addition then to what you about community planning, that you need those variances, community planning is also recommending that if the committee gives you 5 and 6, they want 2 conditions related to that. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the fact that they're the rear Second Street platform no greater than 10 square meters, and to undertake a technical review for reverse slope driveway to the satisfaction of Toronto. See, that's acceptable. Okay, so there is no other speakers unless we cannot reach the Franks next door. Sir, do you know if there any discussion? Do you know what the issue that the neighbor had, or maybe they were writing in to be in support? So I shouldn't say that actually. So,
sorry, Speaker, if I may add something.
Yes.
We have 4 supporting letters from 2 adjacent neighbors on the north and the south, so they were in support of our variance. So I would imagine that they called in to support.
Okay, and then they got tired waiting on the line. I don't blame them.
Yes.
Okay, so if you can maybe just make sure we don't have those letters of you.
They should be in the deck. They're part of the deck.
Maybe they got in there too. Hold on, additional.
Yeah,
material.
they're just below the rendering.
It's
Maybe
part of the presentation materials.
I see. Okay, I missed it. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you. Okay, so let's see if community members have any questions for you.
Danny Bendismo would like to ask staff to put side elevation north on the screen, which is the cross section of the building that shows the reverse driveway.
Can I make a comment? Revised drawings were shared with transportation. Those are the ones. Yes.
Sorry, that's.
These are the correct drawings that you're looking at.
Yeah, I just want side elevation north.
Side elevation north.
Staff,
that is it. That is it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I can see that. So I understand there's a lot of reverse driveway buildings in the area, but you know there's a policy against reverse driveways. You're aware of that, right, sir?
Yes, we are aware of that.
And despite of that, you want to continue the trend on the other and on that street, right? Okay. So I just wanted to see, to me, that seems a pretty steep driveway to me. I understand that you made some grade changes going up, but your building could have gone even higher and your reverse slope would have been less. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so my view is, as it has been with all my reverse driveway proposal, I do not support this. I figured you could have brought your building up higher and not have such a drop in there. So I just wanted to clarify, I don't see any dimensions on this drawing, but it looks like it's almost a full height, right, of the floor, of the basement. But can you tell me the dimension of how far down are we going from the sidewalk down to the grade of the garage at the basement level? What's that drop? I can't see.
That drop is sorry. I have it on the site plan. I got the grade levels. So it's 1.3856 to 1.37 something. Hold on. My apologies. Hold on.
You can give it to me in imperial if that's easier for you.
Yeah, bear with me for a second.
Perhaps you can address that by looking at this drawing. At the sidewalk, it says 138 meters, 138.56, and at the garage it's 137. So it says it's about just over 1.5 meters down, but yet it looks like a lot more given those steps.
Anyway, if you can't find it, sir, we'll have to just.
It's 3 foot behind.
So you're saying just a
Right.
3-foot drop there?
3'9" to the sidewalk, from the garage floor to the sidewalk.
Okay, for some reason the optics don't look that way, but I have an issue with reverse driveway, so I support the recommendation by community planning.
Which would be then a refusal of the entire application. Because
Yes, because the applicant is saying so. Yes, I think there could have been an opportunity to have a discussion on this. Yes.
Yeah, because otherwise the other variances are not supportable or by a specific plan. Okay, does anyone have any questions, or else I guess we're ready for a motion? I don't think there's anyone else. We couldn't reach the next door neighbors, and the other people were the actual owners, so they're not speaking. They have an agent. So we're at the point of someone's ready to make a motion, or unless there's no other questions.
I might as well start the ball rolling. I'd like to move for refusal based on the recommendation by community planning. I find that the reverse slope is not in keeping with new city policy about driveways and garages.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I'll second.
Neil Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous refusal. Okay. Mario Lenardi, sorry about that. Your application has been refused. And okay, we'll move on to the next application. Next application was deferred on Prince Edward, so we're up to number 28, 48 Simon Street. Oh, right. This is the one that's been revised twice. So with everyone's permission, perhaps it was revised once. First of all, it's for a 2-story rear addition and a rear yard deck, no longer with a detached garage in the rear yard. There were 4 variances. There are now 3 variances. 2 of those have been revised. Yeah, we have 2 sets of revised plans and waivers, revised tree declaration, 4 letters of support.
Those
transportation. Sorry.
sorry, those drawings you were showing are not the project.
Okay, staff will get them. Thanks for pointing that out, because I wasn't
okay.
green. Transportation has again 2 sets of conditions, and I believe in the additional materials, if I recall, on the second set of the revised plans and the additional materials, there's another revised no zoning and transportation now advised in their second report. They have no objection with the latest drawings dated March the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the complicated way of getting around all of that. In addition to that, I guess that's what we have before us. And the speaker on this application is Maria Denegri, the agent for the owners. Welcome, Maria.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. My name is Maria Denegri. I'm from Denegri Basai Studio and the architect for the owner of the residence. I will just very quickly recap the revisions, just to make sure that it's all clear. The first revision was to remove the ancillary building with parking at the rear. That was a revision that was driven by the client, primarily a kind of cost factor consideration. The removal of the new ancillary structure essentially eliminated one of the variances, and it also addressed an initial condition on the proposal by Urban Forestry, because now none of the work we're doing is within any tree protection zone. The second revision was precipitated by the initial report from transportation. This was received on March 1st. So we very, very quickly attempted to address this. I was in touch with Ashmeed Mohammed from Transportation Services, and we essentially pulled back the extension to make sure that we could accommodate for the turning radius for vehicular parking at the rear of the property. He was happy with the revision and then just made a comment that big SUV vehicles may have a problem making that turn, but no issues there. Just to very quickly point out, the 3 variances we are requesting is one is for FSI. In pulling back our rear extension, we reduced our FSI slightly from 0.94 to 0.92. What I do need to make sure to clarify is that the reason why it appears to be so large is because the basement area is counted. The basement slab is closer to the established grade and thus constitutes the ground floor. So if you were to take the FSI for the 2 stories above grade, we are actually at 0.63, which is a very modest increase to the 0.6. The other 2 are very minor in nature. We are adding on an existing wall and extending that existing wall with our rear addition. And the modest variance for height has to be really with parapet, wall, and drainage. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, panel members, for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny, but this was ready for a question and then perhaps a motion. So just to clarify, the FSI includes the basement because established grade is closer to the basement in the first floor. So in essence, if you don't have a basement, the basement is considered the first floor, right?
Exactly.
Did you do any calculations on what it would be if the basement was, if you weren't subject to that?
Yes, I did, and it's in the zoning matrix that I provided in my site plan, but I also just mentioned it in my presentation. We would be at actually 0.63.
0.63, fine. Okay, so you're just 0.3 above that, 0.03.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion. I'll wait for the members.
I think you're okay.
Okay, so I find that given the presentation and explanation for variance number 1, I move for approval of variance I find are minor in nature, and that'd be variance 1, 2, and 3. And that's the one on the second revised page. I know we had 2 of them. Barb, do you want me to give you the numbers, or are you okay with what I'm just saying?
It's the 0.92.
0.92, correct. Okay, thank you very much.
The latest iteration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you for that motion. We have the seconder for that. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lindegree. See you again. Okay, next application is item 29, 47 Tire Avenue. It's an application for detached dwelling with an attached garage. 6 variances, 4 of which have been revised. We have the revised notice, cover letter about the revisions from Mr. Eagleman, the agent. Transportation has 3 conditions of approval. We have opposition from 37 Jopling. So I think it's two lots south, and 45 Tire next door, and a concern from 39 Joplin. And we have Dave Eagleman is the agent. We have 2 neighbors registered to speak, the neighbor at 46 Tire and 37 Jopling, who wrote one of the letters. 2 of the letters, actually. It was a letter, and I think then there was a revision or an addendum to the letter, if I recall.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I believe we only have the neighbor at 37 Jopling. Paul had reached out to the neighbor at 46 Tire, but they didn't respond, and I don't see them on the line.
Okay, that would be the neighbor across.
Sorry. I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Chair. We're going to have to stop for a second. They can't hear me. Hold on. stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing. The button. You're on. I got it. Okay, so I think we're back. Mr. Eigelman might have to restart his presentation because I think most of it was lost for YouTube. So my apologies.
That's okay. I barely started.
Too bad you don't have a rewind button. Okay, so yeah, you can. So please start again, and again address as you did, as the member was asking about the urban forestry refusal or one of the conditions 1 and 2. I believe, do you have an arborist report? Anyway, you can deal with that in your presentation.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, as I was saying, we have consulted with planning staff regarding this application and have made revisions to the proposal to their satisfaction, as indicated by the fact that they have not submitted a report. I've also reviewed the report from Urban Forestry, in which they recommend that the committee deny variance number 1. I will note that even if the committee were to approve this application without any conditions, we would still be required to obtain a permit from Urban Forestry for the injury or removal of any bylaw protected trees on site. And I will also note that the proposed site plan only indicates 1 private tree to be removed from the subject property, and the tree proposed to be removed is not the same tree that Urban Forestry is concerned with, as indicated within their report. Moreover, we are acceptable to the standard forestry conditions number 1 and 2, which are recommended by Urban Forestry should the committee approve this application. I've also reviewed the report from Transportation Services, and we are also acceptable to their recommended conditions. Regarding the variances, variance number 1 pertains to the proposed gross floor area. The proposed additional massing will result in an increase of 83.7 square meters over what is permitted as of right, and will be distributed over 2 floors. The proposed dwelling design includes a scaled back second floor as compared to the first floor, which will further mitigate any potential impacts associated with an increase in gross floor area on the subject property. Additionally, the proposed massing will be broken up by architectural features and windows on every side of the dwelling. The proposed dwelling is also compliant with all landscaping, side yard, and rear yard setback requirements, which demonstrates that the proposed massing is not an overdevelopment of the subject property. As such, the proposed FSI and resulting massing will be in keeping with the adjacent and surrounding neighborhood context and will have little to no impact further than what the bylaw already contemplates and what already exists within the neighborhood. Variance number 2 pertains to the proposed front yard setback. The proposed front yard setback will be a reduction of only 6 centimeters from what currently exists on the subject property, and will bring the proposed dwelling more in line with the front yard setbacks of other dwellings on the street. Variance number 3 pertains to the proposed building length. As I mentioned in my discussion on the FSI, the proposed second floor will be scaled back as compared to the first floor. As such, the proposed building length variance is only related to the first floor, whereas the second floor will be compliant with and will be 1.32 meters less than the permitted building length of 17 meters. Further, the proposed length is only 75 centimeters greater than what is permitted as of right, and will have little to no impact further than what is contemplated by the bylaw. Proposed dwelling, as I mentioned, is also compliant with all landscaping requirements, side and rear yard setback requirements, as well as the maximum building depth, which proposed building length is appropriate and will fit in harmoniously with the surrounding context. Variance number 4 pertains to the proposed height. The proposed height of 7.37 meters will result in a dwelling height that is very similar to the height of the eaves of sloped roof dwellings within the neighborhood. Moreover, the proposed height is only 87 centimeters greater than what is permitted as of right, and will be practically imperceptible as compared to an as of right building height. The proposed ceiling heights will be of a modest 10 feet and 9 feet for the first and second floors respectively, and the proposed building height will have little to no impact further than what exists in the neighborhood and what is contemplated by the bylaw. Variance number 5 is effectively the same variance as number 4, with the only difference being that variance number 4 is a requirement under the current bylaw 569/2013, whereas variance number 5 is a requirement under the former Etobicoke zoning code. Variance number 6 pertains to the proposed driveway or vehicle access, which is from the flanking street. The proposed vehicle access from the flanking street, which is Jopling Avenue, is currently an existing condition on the subject property, and the proposal will be maintaining that existing condition. Further, Transportation Services have expressed that they have no objections to the proposed vehicle access, subject to their recommended conditions. Based on the provided justification, I am of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, is consistent with the redevelopment trends along Tyre Avenue and the broader neighborhood context. And for these reasons, I believe this application represents good planning and meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Eagleman. Any questions from Mr. Eagleman, panel members?
Danny Bliss just has a quick question. The drawing is very complicated. There's a lot happening, as you're saying, about second floor, first floor, garage, and so on. Did you ever do a 3D drawing on this? Did I miss something in this in the package? No.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is no, to answer member Bellissimo's question, there is no 3D drawing that we have prepared, although we do have, site plan, floor plans, and elevations.
Yes, just the elevations are hard to read because there's so much going on, but it's a very interesting proposal, but I just thought maybe I missed something. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so like I said at the outset, we had a letter of opposition, 2 parts from 37 Jopling. That neighbor is here, one of the Hensons to speak. As well, we had a letter from 45 Tyre with an addendum and a concern from 39. So I guess the only speaker we have now is 37 Jopling. And we can perhaps have their letter up as they make their presentation. Welcome. Was it Nicole or John?
John. Yeah, I wasn't planning to speak, so I guess I'd just defer to our letter there that's been submitted. We haven't really been consulted on the project at all and had a chance to talk to the developer. So yeah, if we can refer to the letter, that'd be great.
Okay, we have a letter up here. So let's see if we can and perhaps, because we do have the agent here. So if there's any questions, for the agent to perhaps read along. We have another letter from another neighbor as well at 45, but Yeah, they had their questions attached. Your application, yeah, here it is. I guess it's up on the board. I just feel it's excessive, too large, height variance, flat roof, increased length and height. Okay, so everyone can read that along, and you don't wish feel height variance and should be decreased, refused, and the decreased magnitude of other. Okay, so also maybe water down or reduce some of the other variances. Okay, so again, if you don't mind, this can stand as your presentation, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for this neighbor while he's on the line? And if not, we'll go back to the applicant.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, I have reviewed the concerns expressed by the neighbors, and I will note that, we did work with planning staff regarding this application, and we have made quite a few revisions to the proposal to planning staff's satisfaction, and we feel that those revisions have addressed both the neighbors and planning staff's concerns that were raised. I will note that the proposed height of the dwelling is in keeping with the neighborhood. Sloped roof dwellings are permitted at a height of 9.5 meters in this neighborhood. And although we are a flat roof dwelling, we are proposing a height of 7.37 meters. So we will be 2.13 meters less than the permitted height for sloped roof dwellings in the neighborhood. Also, the proposed FSI, or GFA in this case, includes the detached garage. So that is a part of the calculation. The proposal will result in a dwelling that is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and will respect and reinforce that existing character.
Right. And I take it your client's house is a corner lot, which sometimes has a magnified impact on due to that where it's situated. So anyway, anyone else have any questions? I guess we just have for Mr. Eagleman, and if you want to continue to address the comments of this specific neighbor or the neighbors in general.
Danny Belismo has questions in relationship to the questions raised by the neighbor. Question for the applicant. I see here in your cross, you said it's compatible to other houses. Reading here that the floor to ceiling height on the first floor is 11 feet. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to answer your question, Mr. Bellissimo, the heights that you see on the elevation, you said it was 10 feet, correct?
No, sorry. I'm looking at all your elevations, and they all show 11 foot from floor to ceiling on the first floor and 10 foot from floor to ceiling on the second floor. And I was asking whether that's typical in the neighborhood, because the neighbor is raising questions about the overall height. And then I'll follow up with another question after you answer that.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe, Member Bellissimo, you are looking at the original set of plans and not the revised set. If you look at
okay.
Yeah, so the ceiling heights have been revised to 10 feet on the first floor and 9 feet on the second floor.
I see that. So thanks for clarifying that, because so you're right. 10 foot floor to ceiling on the first floor, 9 foot floor to ceiling on the second floor. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion on this one. And
I just want to point out, I'm glad you noticed that revision, because I would have, Mr.
I was on the wrong plans.
11 and 10, and then when the applicant said, well, our flat roof height is lower than the permitted slope roof height, well, that's a given. That's the way it is. That's the way it's intended. So I wasn't explanation. So I'm glad you looked into that, and please make your motion.
Yeah, I like to compare apples to apples when the flat roof to flat roof. So I find that under other circumstances, I would have issues with this, but because it's a corner lot, and corner lots have one great benefit, they impact less on neighbors. So I find that the design, although it's hard to read what's in and out, but I think I figured it all out in 3D, I find that the variances are minor in nature. and I'd like to move for approval of this proposal. Condition on, you're okay with the conditions on forestry and transportation?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we are okay with those conditions.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I should have asked that question earlier. So I'd like to move for approval on the revised waiver before the committee, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 variances.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Eagleman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Have a fantastic day.
Okay, we'll try. Next application is item number 30, 56 Springbrook Gardens. And it's an application for another detached dwelling with an attached garage. And bear with me, please. I believe we only have the one speaker on this, who is William Dewson.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yeah, just want to do a quick introduction to make sure I'm not missing anything here. It's a construction attached dwelling with an attached garage, as I stated, one variance. We have a previous decision from September 2016 with the same owner. We have Forestry, okay, TRCA, okay. Ravines and National Features Protection has a condition of approval. There's 6 letters of approval, and Urban Forestry is looking for a refusal. Okay, now it's your turn. Thanks, Mr. Dewson. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm William Dewson, architect at Dewson Architects, agent for the owner Russ Durant and Carrie Jefferson. As you've stated, we've no objections. I was not aware of what the urban forestry objection is, but maybe we can look at that in detail. Also, I believe there is actually 7 variances, not 1 variance.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I had a line through my 7, so it looks like a 1. You're right, 7 variances. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, so if we can pull up the variances.
Okay.
And there we go. Just briefly as an overview, variances 1, 3, and 4 are due to the definition of top of bank, bottom of bank, and by TRCA, which a very particular lot that has a bank cutting right through the longitudinal length of the lot, which reduces the square footage of buildable area to just 66 square meters, and resulting in that skewed floor space index of 5.31 times. And that's variants 1, 3, and 4 are dealing with that. TRCA, as you mentioned, have no objection. We just have to have this clarified by you, the committee, as being appropriate use of the land. By the way, we are replacing an existing house and essentially staying on the existing footprint of the existing house at 56 Springbrook Gardens. Variants 2 and 5,
if I can just interrupt you and I'll give you more time. When I said, I just checked back, Urban Forestry doesn't want to deny your application. They just want to deny variance 2. So if you can just, keep that in mind, that's whether that's fatal to your application in totality or not. That was their objection to variance 2.
Okay, so well, we'll have to get into detail.
I'll give you an
on
extra
that.
minute or so, but please, I want you to know that I didn't mislead you when I said they wanted to deny the whole application. No, their memo, and you have a copy of it, is just deny variance 2. But that may be
okay.
Important variance to you or not. So.
Yeah, well, it is important, and maybe I can come back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry for interrupting. I just wanted you to be aware of that as you make your presentation. I figured that would
Mr. Chairman.
be helpful to everyone involved.
Thank you. So that variance 2 and 5, the definition of the front yard setback at 9.4 meters. That is a result of another quirk about the relationship to our neighbor to the west, who is on Spring Garden Road. And even though their front door, their address is 54 Springbrook Garden, and their driveway is to Springbrook Garden, and it appears as if their front yard is at Springbrook Garden, it is defined under the bylaw as having the front yard to Spring Garden Road. I hope this isn't confusing. Spring Garden Road is the road to the west. So the definition of front yard setback being the average distance between the two neighbors does not apply because it is side yard to the west. So we are required to be the front yard setback at 9.4 meters, which is equal to the neighbor to our east. I'll get into drawings. We can probably get into drawings in a sec.
Again, sorry to interrupt. So the letter just further about variance 2, it's because of the Norway maple, city-owned Norway maple, 83 centimeters. So the question is, do they have their front yard mixed up? Again, you should be aware that this 83 centimeter Norway maple, that's the tree. So whether that's in the side yard or the front yard under the definition, that's the tree they're concerned about.
Okay, well, maybe we should dig into this variance then, shall we?
So yeah, if you look, it says deny variance 2, the minimum required front yard setback 9.04, proposed dwelling 6.94. It says will require the removal of a healthy bylaw protected tree number 1, which is this 83 centimeter Norway maple.
Okay, so can we pull up the site plan? Survey. Okay, hold it right there for a moment. There is the existing survey, and you can see the relationship to the left of the screen, which is 54 Springbrook Gardens. And you can see their driveway is on Springbrook Gardens, and you can see that their front door is also on Springbrook Gardens. That is, however, that frontage is defined as a side yard, and their actual frontage is defined as the street to the left. It's not on this survey. And then you can see there. Oh yeah, that makes it a little bit clearer. Okay. So ours is the property in the middle. That's the existing house. If we can scroll down, and you can see the Norway maple that you see is just on the property line. Just inside our property. If you could put that, yeah, that's it right there. That's the Norway maple in question. So you can see
that tree going to be impacted by your construction. If it's not, then it seems like you'll be able to work it out with urban forestry, and we can move on.
Well, yeah, it is. So please, if we can go down, we need to get this variance in order to place our property at that in the existing location. Okay, if we can zoom in to the front yard, you can see this is our proposed building. And I want to zoom right into that Norway maple because there's some dimensions there. Right, okay, perfect. If you can see, the proposed front yard setback is 6.94 meters. That is to the house, and you can see the dark gray, which defines our second story, and the light gray is the definition of our first story. Both are in the same plane. The dashed line that you see within the proposed building is the existing front wall of the existing building. The dashed line that is at the covered porch, that's the existing covered porch dashed line. So those dashed lines represent the existing house, We are placing the new house virtually on the same footprint. The definition of the tree protection zone for that Norway maple, it is defined as being within the ravine. It's on that bank and on that ravine. So the tree protection becomes considerably more than if it was not within the ravine. The Norway, you can see that the maple is just inside our property line. I think they define it, our arborist has defined it as in good shape. I can't quite recall if it's in good shape, but it exists within the foundation of the existing house. We will not have any effect on the root structure of this tree. We're keeping our building in that same footprint. Why it's critical to have that variance is, as you can see our neighbors to the right, his dimension is 9.04 meters. That's the setback of his property, 9.4 meters. The bylaw definition, because our neighbor to the west is, it's his side yard, we only use one neighbor's setback. We can't go any farther in front of the setback. His setback is at 9.4. So if you deny this variance number 2, we are required to be set back 9.04 meters. And as you can imagine, that would make the lot unbuildable.
Okay, so I asked you that question a few minutes ago, whether that was fatal to your application.
It's fatal.
But I've been just noticing something. It looks like normally we have from urban forestry in the alternative, they go 5 and they say if you don't do that, then 1 and 2. Does this one, was I wrong that it just says 5, Madam Secretary Treasurer, doesn't say fall back to 1 and 2? Or is that just an omission? Or did I miss something? My checklist. Hello?
Chair,
Sorry, I was just checking it. It goes back to the Ginger City tree.
Okay. So, okay.
It's in their February 24th memo.
Yeah.
On this item specifically.
Yeah.
Says deny the variance or condition number 1.
Okay.
Well, what's condition number 1? Submission of complete application for a permit.
City-owned tree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
we have no problem with condition 1. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's normally a fallback. When I looked at the checklist, it just gave 5, which is a refusal. It didn't give the fallback a 1 or 2, or 1 or 2, or both.
Well,
so
I think if we read this,
yes, we go with we go with the more specific memo in our file rather than the checklist. Normally, that's what we do. So that's fine. The committee has a fallback condition to dealing with that tree.
Yeah, so the way I'm reading this memo from Urban Forestry, if despite Urban Forestry's recommendation, the committee adjustment approves the variances, please. Urban Forestry requests variances to be subject to condition 1, submission of complete permit to injure and remove. Absolutely, we'll fully.
Okay, and
we've already got our application in.
So I guess because we had a back and forth. Those are your submissions. Committee members, are any follow-up questions for Mr. Dewson, or someone ready for a motion?
Andy, but this one has follow-up questions for clarification. This is not as simple as it seems, but to the applicant, you had said at the beginning that the house is on the same footprint as the existing, correct?
Yeah, it sits on the virtually on this existing footprint.
So technically speaking, you could actually, if you change your layout, you could actually build on your existing, leave the basement in place and build on the existing and not impact on that tree, correct?
No, No. The existing house is a 1950s, late
No,
50s,
I'm
early
just saying
60s bungalow.
technically, structurally I'm trying
No,
to get at,
technically, structurally, we couldn't.
but, okay, so what I'm trying to say is this. The existing tree is there and the foundation walls are in the same relationship to those roots as in your new proposal, correct? Your new foundation walls are not going to be impacting any further on the root ball as is
Correct.
presently, correct?
Correct.
I mean, you're taking out an old foundation wall and putting a new foundation wall in virtually the same spot. So I don't
Correct.
see how that would impact on the root ball of that tree. And besides, trees have more than one side, and that's just the one side that's been there for how many years? I don't know how old that tree is. So I don't buy the argument from Forestry. I do think there should be a condition on it, but and thanks, by the way, for that 3D drawing. It makes us understand it very clearly, the proposal. So if there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion, but I'll let the other members comment first.
Anyone has any more questions of the applicant, then go ahead, Mr. Bellissimo.
In that case, I find that the variances are minor in nature. I find that the working within the existing footprint, this is just a new design, bringing a site up to date. And so I'd like to move for approval of the variance. And I understand the applicant said he's okay with condition number 1 from Forestry, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous design.
I think there's also a ravines condition, is there not?
Yes, there is ravine condition number 1.
Okay, so does someone want to amend that, or should I amend that myself?
I can amend that in my seconding of that motion with a friendly amendment, adding the ravine condition number 1.
Yep.
And a comment that it's a great design, so thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Everyone's in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dewson.
Thank you.
We'll see you again. Okay, our next application is item number 31. 14, where is it here? 14 Crendon Drive. It's for a second-story addition above the existing dwelling and a 2-story front addition and a new front porch. 4 variances. Urban Forestry looking for condition number 2. We have a support petition as well as support from 16. And I think we have something from planning. I think planning is okay. Oh yeah, they have a conditional, just construct as illustrated in the site plan and elevation plan drawings with respect to side main wall height. So there's a very simple, typical condition just to keep the applicant honest on that. And no other comments other than the Urban Forestry. And the speaker is Pavlo Turco.
Yes, present.
Welcome.
Thank you. And the owner of the property is sitting next to me in case you have any questions.
Okay. I don't believe we need a presentation for this. Was there anything you'd like to let committee members know before they see if they have any questions for you? Nice to see you have support of the neighbors.
Danny Bellissimo has a question. This is item 31. We have new drawings presented. Question for the applicant. These 3D illustrations, they represent the proposal before us, correct?
Yes, correct. We have 3D views of the house.
Right. So that's just an update to give us more information. Those they're not changes in that one, correct?
No, not at all. There's a cover page just to giving you like a visual on the house.
It helps quite a bit. It's wonderful to see that because the floor plans are not easy to follow in this one as well, but the 3D really does help. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion.
I think you're okay to go.
Okay, so I move for approval of the variance. I find the variance of minor in nature and conditional forestry condition.
Okay, seconded for that. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pablo.
Good day. Thank you.
Okay. Item 32 has been deferred, so we're on to item 33. 14 Bulger Place. You can recall that was one where we have a disputed or where the agent advised he is not accepting the Is that 30? Sorry, 33. 32
Not
was,
accepting the deferral, yeah.
yeah, so 33 Bolger, Enrique Valencia, we spoke to him at the time and he advised he was opposed to the deferral. So we said we put it back in the agenda. So now we're back to this item. So let's introduce it. It's an application for a one-story rear addition and new rear deck. And there are 5 variances and 2 letters of support from 15 and 12. Seems pretty straightforward. Urban Forestry requesting condition number 2. And
I'm sorry, sir. Did you say 5 variances? Because I have 3.
no, hold on a second. What did I say? Did I say 5? Oh, sorry, 3. Okay, 3 variances and 2 letters of support. But we did just have this on the overall. There is no planning report. It was just on their overall deferral memo.
Mhm.
So that's all we know at this point. Okay, so Mr. Valencia, you're the agent or the owner? You're the agent.
I'm the agent for
Okay.
Jason and Aditi.
Okay, so committee members, do you wish a presentation or at least on this application?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I
Yeah.
would like to be given a chance to present. I
Yes,
know,
that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying if they have any questions for you, if they want you to present your application, or if they think it's just a slam dunk and they just want to ask you. So I think, you know what, given there is, and I see there is quite a large length and depth variance, perhaps you should make a presentation on this.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, because committee planning wanted a deferral to look into this in greater detail. I believe number 2.
Yes. Okay. So
People.
sorry. Okay.
Please,
So
you've also had any discussions with community planning on this?
yeah, or else I wouldn't have felt comfortable basically accepting or refusing the deferral if I didn't speak with Timur.
It's only a 1-story rear addition, right?
Yeah.
No, you're not building a new house here. Okay, so please proceed. Go ahead.
Okay. So good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Enrique Valencia. I'm the agent for 14 Bolger. I'd just like to start with a statement from the owners, and for the owner's sake, we feel we have done our due diligence to the best of our ability in regards to the following application, and hope it is judged with an open mind with a few factors which I will state right now. I think I can say for anyone at the city, at first glance, the project does not offer the orthodox solution like most properties in the area and around Toronto. The 3 variances which are being requested they all involve the depth of the overall building in relation to the rear yard setback. I have seen community planning's memo, and like I just stated before, I did speak with Timur. But I'll address his concern right at the end. To begin, I just want to start with saying that that we're not dealing with a conventional standard rectangular lot. The property has the same set of bylaws as most of the neighborhood right there. Had this property not been built on a cul-de-sac, we would more than likely not be dealing with these variances, just with the fact that the FSI is not being affected, the coverage is not being affected. That's why I believe it is minor in nature. A lot of the extra space on this property is landscaped towards the northwest. And whether we build an addition or not, due to the irregular pie-shaped lots and the location of the building, which was originally built this way, we're still encroaching into the rear yard, whether you build basically any deck or any type of extension. There was a 1-story shed right at the southwest corner, which it's been demolished, and that was right before the surveyor was consulted. And there's currently an attached enclosed unheated platform, which is an enclosed deck, which is existing, but it'll be replaced with the new addition. We have looked at all other possible locations on the lot, and in all honesty, the location being proposed is the most reasonable, but most importantly for the client, it's the most economical. Ideally, the goal would be to gain more space but going up a second story is not in the budget. And we've consulted our structural engineers as well. And you would have to basically either move or touch the walkout, reinforce it, or build right through the existing garage. which would require more structural frames, more reinforcements, and potential underpinning with the walkout. The homeowners are looking to keep things within a budget as they plan for the long-term future on this property. That's why we decided before applying to committee to present the full package to all three adjacent neighbors in order to gain their approval before anything else. Had any of them said, no, I don't want it, then we probably would have taken a step back and either wait to save more money or just completely flat out just refuse the whole project. So thankfully, we're grateful for at least the two neighbors that wanted to sign the letters of support. We did speak with the neighbor on the adjacent road, which we share the rear yard line with, and they just weren't interested, basically. They gave us an okay, but they didn't want to sign anything. From there, once we got the neighbors' approvals, our goal was to get Urban Forestry's approval, which again, thankfully, they gave us a verbal blessing on site a couple of weeks ago, as long as we go for the injury permit. We've also already consulted the arborist and obtained his report, and thankfully, the type of tree that's there we won't be doing too much to it. And finally, as I stated before, we know of community planning's memo for deferral. I have spoken to Tamur Chad already this week, basically right after we received the memo. He was able to review the project, just due to communication errors, we weren't able to connect. But luckily we were able to connect before this date. And I can't speak on his behalf. However, I wouldn't be here presenting to you if his feedback was like incredibly negative or if he advised me not to present. We came to the consensus that you might as well go for it. I understand that community planning doesn't want to set any type of precedents with the fact that that we're asking for basically an allowance, an encroachment far beyond what would be the standard. But like I stated before, a lot of the well, anything that we would build really towards the rear would be going to through this process. And then as well, so we're also not the type of consultants to push a project without really being comfortable with the due diligence and whatnot.
Thank you, sir. I think you're over your time.
sorry.
Obviously, like if you're telling us something untrue, first of all, you'd be affecting your reputation. Community planning can always appeal. So you obviously are an agent before this committee, and you're telling us something. So thank you for that presentation. Do committee members, you have any? And also, just to clarify, you mentioned the words an encroachment. You're not encroaching, it's just a larger variance. The word variance. Don't say encroachment. Encroachment is something different.
Sorry.
Okay, so you've explained, and again, precedents, that's why people come, they don't look at every application as different than it is. Sometimes the outliers, it's because there's something going on, either the basement counted or it's a specific situation like a pie-shaped lot, which is shouldn't be used as a precedent for a normal rectangular lot in the normal course. So any questions for the applicant? Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Valencia. Or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready for a motion if there are no further questions. I agree, this is not a conventional site. I've never seen such a stretched polygon site. And I agree with the applicant that it's very difficult to do anything to this site, and people need to improve their properties. The isometric drawings, which are the first time I've seen isometric drawings since I've been here, which are wonderful. The inside and the outside of the building, great. So I'd like to move for approval. I find the variances minor in nature, conditional forestry on this one. Yes, there is one condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. The seconder for that motion. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor?
Can I make just a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Just tie the variance for the rear yard setback and maybe the depth to the site plan. So it's not the entire rear yard that gets that setback, it's that one corner.
Yes, I was on mute. I have no problem with that because the plan is quite clear about where they're going. So I could tie it to the site, the survey Site plan, yes, site plan.
And also so that other people don't take this precedence and say, hey, we get away with a rear yard across the entire back.
Yeah, I understand that. This is a very unusual site, but I'm fine with tying it to the site plan. Thank you.
Construct as illustrated on specific plan as relates to length and depth. So it's not for the whole, it's just for length and depth, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Ms. Alderson, you're in favor? Okay. All in favor, it's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to the
Was that as it related to lengths and depth or also rear yard setback?
Yeah, and rear yard, yeah, particularly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next application is item number 3425 Renault Crescent. And we have a revised agenda page. This is a detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 10 variances. There are now 6. 4 have been eliminated. 2 of those remaining of those 6 have been revised as well. We have the applicant's revisions and an arborist report. And that's urban forestry requesting condition number 2. And that's all we have on that. And there's one speaker, the agent Alva Roy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the members. Thank you very much for having me over here. I just want to talk to you about that. We had the drawing we incorporate with the zoning examiner in the 2 times and then bring down the number of variances from 13 or 14 to 11. And the next step, we have a close actually communication with the planner, Mr. Daniel Kolominski, and back and forth. So he had some opinion about that in order to support our application. And we end up with to eliminate the zoning to setbacks at all. We don't have any setback issue in any other side. Both setback on the both side are 1.2, which in some area that Etobicoke allowed for 1.2 with versus 0.9, but we both keep it as a 1.5, 1.2. Actually, we eliminate. We don't have anything, as I said, with the setbacks, front yard, side setbacks, and the lot coverage is very minor from 35%, 36%. We decrease it to 35%. We only have a 2% minor variance as compared to 33%. Only 2% we are above, versus that area, specifically that street. There is a next door property is much more, is close to the 40 percent something, but we keep it 35 to satisfy the zoning bylaw and in order to satisfy the planners. Also, we have a small, actually minor height for the total height, because our application is under with the flat roof, is not based on the pitch roof. Then pitch roof, you know that this is much higher than in the number of the flat roof, but we try to keep it, everything is under 9 feet, which is not very the trend in this time of the in our city. So, but we try to keep it at the 9 feet in order to maintain the general height of the building. The rest of the application, we eliminated one secondary rear, the balcony at the back, which is what not necessarily, but based on zoning, based on planning recommendation, we will do that because we want to have a respect, mutual respect for both recommendation and application. And we have a couple minor remain, maybe a step into the front setback, some such a things, or architectural feature is a little bit into So there are, in our opinion, and also in the zoning, in the planner, is the minor, and I would appreciate if we have your support and your favor for that application from your end.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for the agent? And this is also subject to urban forestry condition 2. No other questions if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion. Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied that the variances set out in the revised application meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2.
Thank you, sir. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion, Ms. Alderson.
Mhm.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate for your time.
Thank you. We have 3 more applications. We've been having how about a 10-minute break at this point? Because I don't think we're going to be able, if we have some contested matters coming up, otherwise I'd say we should plow through, but how about we take a 10-minute break? Back at 4:20. Okay. Sorry, Barb, I'm going to have to log out for a second and hopefully gain some power back because it didn't stop after over the lunch hour.
Okay.
And I don't want to run out of, before the end of the meeting, run out of juice. So I'll have to log back in.
Sure.
Okay, welcome back. I see we have 3. So we'll wait another minute. So I guess our next application, is everyone back? We have quorum. And then item 35. I guess we'll wait for Barbara. You there?
Hi, Tatiana is here.
We have
okay.
quorum, and
Okay,
I
we have
think the
quorum.
other speakers are the applicants, so you can proceed.
Yes, I see. I just realized I thought we had someone in opposition, but the other speaker is the applicant who won't be speaking. Just, I guess, here to observe. So, Tatiana Petrovic, welcome.
Thank you.
Let
Good
me,
afternoon.
I just want to introduce this briefly. This for various additions. Second story addition above the existing dwelling, a 2-story north side addition, and a new attached garage. There are 3 variances. Urban Forestry looking for conditions 1 and 2, and we have supporting material from the agent with similar examples in the area. Welcome.
Thank you. And good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tatiana Pejevic, and I am the agent for the owners of the property at 111 Lothian Avenue. After submitting plans for a zoning review, we received a zoning notice in which are identified
Sorry,
various...
can we get, just staff, can we get the agent's presentation up on the board as she's speaking, please? Thank you.
Yes, that is the map with the comparable examples. So in our zoning notice are identified variances in respect to rear yard setback, length of the building, and corresponding depth of the building. Our main idea in the approach to designing this addition was to replace the existing 1-car garage with a new 2-car garage, and to expand the additional dwelling area above the new proposed structure, as well as behind the proposed garage in line with the existing exterior wall, and at the same time to keep intact as much as possible the existing part of the house. The existing bungalow is located on a corner lot with the address and front of the house at Lothian Avenue. From a zoning perspective and analysis, lot frontage is facing Springbrook Avenue, and in this light, the numbers with respect to building length and respective depth are exceeding required values. The length of the existing bungalow with the existing attached 1-car garage is 17.3 meters and is longer than permitted maximum. When the existing 1-car garage is replaced with the proposed 2-car garage, a proposed length of the house becomes 20.5 meters. Similar examples of the houses with the attached garage, especially those ones with attached 2-car garage and which are longer than 17 meters, are present in the neighborhood. We try to provide more information and explanation in the supporting document which was uploaded on the website, and to give more insight into the specifics and location of the existing bungalow and its current features. In the supporting document is attached map which is currently on the screen, and which is showing pattern on the corner lots on which are situated houses having length which exceeds zoning requirements. Some of the examples are 114 Lothian, 117 Lothian, or 129 Lothian, as well as the others which are shown on the map. The mentioned examples are especially comparable with our proposal, since these houses are with the attached 2-car garages, and their overall length is significantly more than 17 meters. I would mention also just 117 Lothian is exceeding 24 meters. I would also mention that in the proposed design, the coverage is not exceeded, neither the proposed floor space index. The owners of the property, 111 Lothian Avenue, in the past weeks had communication with the immediate neighbors, acquainting them with the proposal, and they received their verbal support. We hope that the proposed variances can be considered as a minor, and we hope that we can have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the agent? And if not, we don't have any other speakers, so we're ready for a motion.
Andy Bellissimo is ready for a motion if there are no further questions. Again, corner lot of frontage, a lot of landscaping in the front. So I find that these variances are very minor in nature, and it is an addition. So I agree with the applicant that she has maintained the current features of corner lots in the area. This is not digressing from the existing architectural features in the neighborhood. So I'd like to move for approval. Conditional, fourth condition, I believe there's one condition. Is the applicant okay with that condition?
Yes, we are okay with forestry conditions.
Thank you. Then I will put that condition in. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, seconded for Mr. Bellissimo's motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Petrick.
Thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Okay, our next application, which we have three neighbors appearing in addition to the agent, Mr. Romano. It's 19 Cardell Avenue, A, B, and C. This is an application for consent to sever the property into two residential lots and to demolish the existing dwelling on the property and to redevelop each lot as so divided as the site of a new detached dwelling requiring variances to zoning bylaws set at B and C. And each of those requires 6 variances. There were previously 9 variances. We have revised a notice sheet highlighted to show, and 2 of those 6 have been revised as well. We have explanation of the changes and a presentation from Mr. Romano. We have the typical engineering and construction services memo applying to severances. We have forestry, which looking for a denial. Ravines, we have emails from Ravines, natural feature protection. There's no conditions. TRCA has no objection, and we have one opposition from 20 Fairglen Crescent. And in the additional materials, I believe we have a letter of objection from the owners of 21 and 30. It was a long, detailed letter we received in the additional materials yesterday. Okay, and that's all we have. So, Mr. Romano.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
It's all for you. We have your presentation up on the board.
Yes, so slide 1 shows in green on the left-hand side is a context map. So we'll see that on Cardell itself, 50% of the properties have a lot frontage of 7.6 meters. And within the neighborhood, 59% of the lots have a lot frontage of 7.6 meters. So from a lot fabric perspective, proposal respects and reinforces both the immediate context and the neighborhood context. What you'll see next door is that there are properties of 7.6 meters and they have side yard setbacks that are less than 1.8 meters. Those are consistent with over 90% of the lots on Cardell Avenue itself, and that is also reflective of the neighborhood. So the side yard setbacks that are being proposed are well in keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood and the area. And I would say that the 1.2 meters that are being proposed are actually a little wider than what one normally gets in this neighborhood for a 7.6 meter wide lot. The 2 dwellings have been sited to overlap the existing building. And what occurs on this property, as you see in the topography, on the elevation drawings that I show in the lower right of slide 1, is that the topography rises from the street to the back. So where we have a garage and 2 levels of living above from the front, at the back, we have 2 levels. This is considered a 3-story dwelling. from a zone examiner for the purposes of at least the platforms. So you'll see on the rear elevation where the grade level is, that is the second story platform. And that is one of the variances, and variance, I'm not sure what number it is now, but it was variance number 8. So that is the 14.12 square meter second story platform. It's a ground level patio. The third story platform is at the second story level, but this second story level is comparable to many first floor levels in this neighborhood, because that second story platform level is less than 10 feet from ground level. So this is, sorry, in the variance, this is a third story platform level. It's less than 10 feet from ground level. So whether it's 4 square meters or the 9.99 square meters that's on the revision, the level of impact of overlook is exactly the same. It's from a secondary living area. It's from a bedroom area. So there's no unacceptable adverse impact. The lot coverage and the dwellings themselves reflect, you can see next door, number 21, it's on a little wider lot. It's a larger footprint that has a lot coverage in excess of the 40% that's being sought in this condition. That's consistent with what we see within the neighborhood. If we go to slide number 2, what we're going to see, thank you. That's slide number 2. This shows the as of right building envelope in green and the proposed building envelope in black. There are, let me find it here again. There are 12 trees, both in the city boulevard and on private property. And 9 of those 12 are being protected. There is no city tree that is being impacted. So Urban Forestry's comments about a city tree being impacted is incorrect. The driveway does not impinge on any city tree. That is an engineering comment. That is also incorrect. The proposed driveways do not impinge on any city tree or any private tree. 3 trees are affected by the as of right development, and that is consistent with the proposed development. So there's only 1 tree that may potentially be impacted on private property. That is a result of the variances being sought, and it is as a result of none of the variances that have been objected to. The lot frontage, the lot area, the consent, none of those affect trees. The building depth that's referenced in one of the tree comments, there is no building depth variance. It was a building length variance, and that has been removed. So we now have buildings that are less than 17 meters in length, and the side yard setback variance does not impact the trees any differently. The 1.8 or the 1.2 meters would affect the trees in a similar manner. So we can accept tree condition number 1 as being reasonable and for the site, and I would submit that, again, in keeping with the revisions, there is no rear yard setback variance anymore. The proposal accommodates a rear yard setback that is larger than what is required under the zoning bylaw, and the below-grade garage is being removed. And I would submit that what's being proposed here is respectful and reinforcing of the neighborhood character with no unacceptable adverse impact.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romano. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Romano before we hear from the neighbors? Can't see everyone's screen, so you'd have to speak out rather than put up your hand or not. Okay. Also, just to point out, yeah, Mr. Romano, we don't have any community plan did not weigh in on this application.
I actually reached out. No, community planning had I can't remember who reached out first. I advised them that we had we were working on a few centimeter difference in order to remove that below grade garage variance. There was an interpretation issue relative to the grades. So I know that community planning sometimes has a concern with below grade garages, and I had given them a heads up that we were revising that. And that's when I talked to Mr. Bolger about the project, and he indicated that he had a concern with the third floor platform, and that if it came in at less than at a maximum of 10 square meters, he'd be okay. And then after I told him that it was actually the second floor, he seemed to be okay with it. And then he didn't like the rear yard setback either, so we had revised that.
Okay, thank you. So the next, we have 3 speakers from 21 Cardell, 20 Fairglen Crescent, and 17 Cardell. The first one listed on my list is Carlo or Tizania Altabelli.
Hello, good afternoon. Carlo Altabelli here, 21 Cardell. I'm the neighbor next to 19 Cardell.
Welcome, sir.
Welcome. It's a long day for all of you. Anyways, we've been here. I lived across the street at 30 Cardell with my parents, and we take care of that house also. I've been here 54 years, and I'm in the construction industry. And I'm going to break it down. I don't know if you've read my letter, but I wrote a nice letter to you guys to see.
Can you get the letter on the screen, please? Staff?
There's a lot of different issues, but we've been going back and forth committee meetings, and you could see all the development for the last 35 years. And it's frustrating. We were there with Gino Severino at the time, Francis Unziata, George Mamalidi. They've all been to the street. The last application at 6 Cardell at the top of the street was stopped by the committee twice because of all the reasons that I'm going to let you know about. And somehow it went to the OMB and it got passed without us being called to a meeting. And our councillor, Francis Nunziata at the time, called emergency meetings, but it was too late. It got passed, and we didn't know about the appeal process. 28 Cardell, which is directly in front of 19 Cardell, got refused by the committee because of the shoring, and it's got the same land problem as 19 Cardell, where the backs go up so high and all the ground goes so far to the front. Anyway, so water, drainage, all a problem. The infrastructure of the street is concerning. We don't have sidewalks on the street. We don't have curbs. Over the last 10 years, 15 years, they put the trail in at the bottom of the street. The amount of traffic that's on the street, people coming down to use the parks, the fact that no one can get up and down the street safely is concerning. Somebody's going to get killed. It's very, very bad. If they build the house, if they build these 2 properties on that one parcel of land, you're going to eliminate the last parking spot on the street. There's going to be 1 parking spot left. There's 2, sorry. 1 will be eliminated because of the house. So there'll be 1 right in front of my house. So how is it that, you go and build all these houses, there's nowhere to park. The street's very, very narrow. For someone to get up either Fairglen or Cardell, it's impossible. And now we have the trail at the bottom of the street, and they're looking into putting in sidewalks. That means everybody, it's a city project. I don't know who the committee is, but everybody that's going to be, that has a 25-foot lot, they're going to be losing all their parking spaces. This is going to turn into a huge mess. And I've asked the city, and I've asked the councillor to reach out to you to let you know that there's a committee doing this to extend the Humber River Trail from Cardell, the bottom of Cardell, to Cruikshank Park. And that's in the works. And one of the routes that they were choosing is this sidewalk thing. But directly to the house themselves, I built my house in 1996. I built a retaining wall between the 2 properties, and I gave 19 Cardell 6 feet back of their property. This wall is 75 feet long. I'm in the construction business. It's 10 inches thick on a foundation. In order for me to build it, I built it all on my own property. In order for them to reinforce or shore up that wall, to shore up the land, they're going to have to eliminate it. They're going to have to fix the back wall, that the wall goes down the whole property. There's a 6-foot drop. All the water that comes off the houses in the back, the rainwater leaders, the weeping tile, they no longer let you hook up to the storm sewer. It's all run onto grade, right? And the street goes up all on an incline, and the properties go up all on an incline. They haven't upgraded the storm sewer. They haven't upgraded the water lines. They haven't upgraded anything over the last 30 years. The Enbridge gas line is not buried deep enough, right? So every time you cut into the hill, which was on that side of the street, 19 Cardell side, the south side, all these different infrastructure work needs to be addressed, and they haven't done it. The only thing they have addressed in the last, let's say, 26 years are the hydro poles. They moved them from 15 feet in to where they are now, just on the inside of the curb. So what happens now is if they have to put a sidewalk in, I told Hydro, they did this 2 years ago, the hydro poles are in the way of a sidewalk, right? So if we try to develop these parcels of land, you know, at the past, like Mr. Romano said to us, he goes, hey, listen, they're not impacting any trees. My neighbor right now, 19 Cardell, the applicants rent the house out to 7 different men with 8 different vehicles. They threw about 3.5 tons of road salt on the front lawn, right? And that's road salt killed the city tree, which I paid for in 1996 to plant it. The tree was there for 25 years. You look at Google Earth, of course it's not going to affect anything because the tree's not there anymore. The city came and cut it down because it was dangerous because they killed the tree with the road salt 2 years ago. I've called everybody. I called Forestry, the Ministry of the Environment, the Ministry of Spills, everything. I said, like, what happened to the city tree that was there for 25 years? If you look at Google Earth, you'll see that there was a tree there and the city removed it. Why didn't anybody get fined? Like, it's just a mess. These people park on their front lawns. They've destroyed the whole front lawn. You can take a look. The Committee of Adjustment walked the street with the city planner, and they promised us over 20 years ago that they would look into putting sidewalks. At that time, we didn't have the trail at the bottom of the street. Now we do. So now there's more people using the street, thousands of people every day. During COVID, it was crazy. And they haven't done anything to upgrade this infrastructure. So that's one thing. But
Sorry,
the house
Mr.
itself,
Altobelli, you're over your 5 minutes.
yeah, I would like, I'm sorry, but this is like 30 years. This is something serious here. Somebody's going to be held liable for a lot of different issues here. And we're just frustrated. And, you know, like I've said, we're not against development, because if you look at Maple Bush, the street just north of us, it has sidewalks, boulevards, curbs. The only streets that don't are Cardell, Fairglen, and D Avenue. And I've always asked the question, why?
Yeah, Mr. Altobelli, you're going to have to end up, but I think, you know, we're just dealing here with a very narrow, this one lot, Mr. Romano's client, 19 Cardell. We're not dealing with 30 years of infrastructure and, you know, obviously issues when you build houses and you lose street parking because of the curb cuts. It's an issue, but it's happening. It happens everywhere in terms of. But we're dealing narrowly with this one particular lot. Homeowner wants to take their lot and divide it, and this committee has to decide whether that is reasonable or not reasonable, whether it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and that's basically all we're here to do. Okay, so I believe that was the only speaker we have.
No, you have 2 other speakers.
Oh, right, we have 2 other speakers. Correct. Okay, so the next speaker. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Altobelli before we move on to the next speaker? If not, the next speaker is either Cheryl Wheeler or Jimmy Sangoy of 20 Fairglen Crescent.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi. Good afternoon.
Yeah, we do have your letter of opposition as well.
Okay. Thank you. So yes, definitely many of the points that my neighbor Carla has said. I've got my husband Jimmy here as well. We are the neighbors that live at 20 Fairglen. I first off want to just say regarding the variance number 8, the maximum permitted area of platform at or above the 2nd story. And thanks for the clarity and also showing the picture of it. However, that would, I think if you look at the other large houses that are now have built on the street, they have not had balconies, large balconies on their 2nd story. And basically those 2 balconies, which basically would be 20 square meters, and even if the reduced size, they are still twice the amount of allowable as laid out by the, what the variance would be if they reduced it. And they stare basically right into our backyard. So in terms of, we certainly have a great concern regarding privacy. It's not like they're staring out into the Humber River or, the beauty of the trees. They've cut those down and they're now just staring basically right into our backyard. So I just wanted to state that. Along with the points that our neighbor Carlo made on Cardell, the lots surrounding the site are not on flat land. So we've got great concerns regarding removal of soil and the construction activity around that. We have a shed on the property that we feel could be compromised, as well as certainly basement flooding specific to this build. Again, we've mentioned the issue regarding removal of mature streets, also the aging infrastructure of the neighborhood. And I think Carlo covered that off, so I won't add to that. But certainly I think we really have to talk about the access to the trail. It's at the bottom of the street. It's a very popular attraction. Lots of bike and foot traffic. no parking on Fair Glen whatsoever. As Carlo pointed out, one spot. So people are going to illegally park because they want to, go walking with their families, ride their bikes, etc. And we've already seen very close calls between cars and pedestrians because it's a narrow, blind corridor. Bike riders are coming flying down there. And we think it's going to be made worse because bottom line is, how much room do they have for parking? Where does the company park? It really is a problem, and we feel that it's dangerous. And last but not least, these owners have not made a good impression. I think I mentioned in my letter, they haven't lived in the home themselves. It seems to have been turned into a rooming house with multiple tenants, with at least.
That really should, those are not planning concerns. The conduct of who they rented it to and whatever else. We're here to deal with planning concerns, not with issues with people.
And true. Yeah. But we are concerned that their actions to date, that this might not just be, family homes, that they are going to turn them into 4 family homes, and continue with the current relationship. So, I mean, I think not having knocked on our door, a big tree fell in our backyard, not neighborly, not getting a good feeling, and we are very reasonable people. We phoned several times. Again, my biggest concern again around all the same things that Carlo has mentioned with regards to the build and the considerations around these retaining walls and uneven lots, and certainly the platforms on the second story or third story are very concerning for us.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. Are you done? That's all you have to say?
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Wheeler before we move on to the next speaker? And I'll just point out that we have all 3 most directly defective neighbors here. We had Ms. Wheeler's directly behind. We heard from Mr. Altabelli, and now the last speaker is Mr. Collins at 17 on the other side. So, Mr. Collins,
out of all the thank you. Out of all of the properties here, I believe mine will probably be the most affected. My house, through my own associations, I actually know the original builders of my house from 1919. Over the years, the property has been reduced down to a 25-foot frontage. Roughly 30 years ago, they built 3 houses beside mine, excavated out the foundations, and left my house with a rather shoddy retaining wall on the east side. On the west side is number 19 Cardell. That house is built on the side of a hill. When they excavate down into the foundations, now the foundation footprint, I'd like to counter what the architect or their agent said, is the footprint is not the footprint of the house. Only a very small portion of the house is actually foundation. The rest of it is built on a pad, and that pad goes back to I believe, about the 40s. Anyway, my house, when they excavate, will be put on an island, will be left high and dry on either side of not having foundations. Now, the actual foundation of my house is approximately 100 years old. With that, there will be no guarantees of building as close as they can to my house, that my house will be protected by the topography, by water, the water flow from the hill, mine being the older of the foundations, in the path of least resistance. Water will be flowing now into my basement from their foundation. And I don't think that is acceptable. As far as the streets go, I mean, yes, change is good. And, if they want to put 2 houses here that fit within the city's parameters, great. But, I mean, change has to be good for everybody, not just a single group of people that want to make profit off of the property. The forestry, I don't know where he got his figures from, but there's actually 6 trees directly involved in the takedown of the property. There are at least 5 trees that are directly along the property line. Yeah, they're not on 19's property line, they're on mine. And when they excavate in, they will be destroyed. And again, with the even destroying of the city trees in front of the house, they didn't see any concern with that. And that's part of our problems that we deal with. But getting back to my house, again, 100 years old, it's been on the, I know all 4 families that have lived there. And with a 100-year-old foundation, when you're building that close, even with it pushing their variances, there will be no guarantees that my house will remain standing or undamaged throughout the construction or throughout the life that I plan to be living there. And it has happened further up the street, I believe at number 3 Cardell, where they excavated out, and the owner then had to completely redo the basement, and they had to. It's still cracking to this day. So to build 2 houses there, that's a huge stretch. They want to build one nice big house. Nobody in this neighborhood would have a problem with that. But when you start severing lots, building 2 houses on a lot that isn't really set out for 2 houses, that's when we start having a problem. And even the fire clearances or the clearances between my house and the new houses going in, I think the fire department would have an issue with that because it's much too close. Anyway, thank you for your time, and that's all I really have to say right now.
Okay, thank you. So does anyone have any questions for this neighbor or any of the 3 neighbors? And otherwise, we'll take it back to Mr. Romano for his rebuttal. No questions? Okay. Mr. Romano?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If slide 1 can be brought back up, please. There is no street parking that's being removed by the proposal. If you see the existing driveway today, it flares out in the municipal boulevard, and it is more than double wide. It's more than the 6 meters that is actually permitted today. The proposal has 2 single driveways, and the driveway on part 1, which is the west lot, will be right next to that utility box. So that provides for more than 7 meters in between driveways on Cardell between 21 and 19. So that will maintain the existing parking situation in front of the subject site. In terms of sidewalks, that's not a matter for this application. However, I will note that a severance application is subject to development charges. And development charges are a way that the city can improve infrastructure. And so that is a public benefit that can accrue to the proposal. Forestry did not note anything regarding any trees that have been affected over time for the subject site. So I'm not sure where that is coming from in terms of a city tree that's being removed or affected by street salt. In terms of grading and drainage, that's all going to be self-contained and reviewed by city staff as part of the building permit process. And once again, the building length is fully compliant with the zoning bylaw. So any excavation along for the 17 meters, and the proposal is less than that. I think it's 15 and change for the dwelling, and then another 16.7 meters for the slightly protruding garage and the porch. So if we go to the lower left of this slide 1, we'll see the position of, and perhaps if we can blow up, because 40 Fairglen is an unusual lot. I'm not sure what shape that is, and perhaps one of the panel members is better inclined to indicate what shape. And I think it's shown here as number 20 Fairglen to the rear of number 19. You'll see it's a bit triangular shaped, and how that lot is basically occupied with a dwelling that's completely on top of that lot. So part of the corner of that building abuts the rear, or is to the rear lot line of the subject site. So that is a bit of an unusual situation and condition. And I'd be pleased to present to the panel, Mr. Chairman, to remove the 3rd story platform area variance. That 3rd story platform area variance of 9.99 square meters, I am happy to remove that, and that will just eliminate the overlook and privacy concern raised from a variance perspective.
So are you basically telling us you're removing one of your variances at this point?
Yeah, I'm happy to, in order to recognize the concern raised by 20, notwithstanding the fact that it's an unusual position lot, and that property should expect a certain amount of overlook and privacy. I am prepared to remove, and again, it's variance 8 on my notice, so I'm not sure what it is on the markup, but it's the 3rd story platform of 9.99 square meters.
So you are of your own volition just removing that?
Yeah, happy
Like
to,
in the middle of your rebuttal as opposed to at the outset, just a little unusual. That's fine. So you are removing that.
I wasn't aware that that was a major concern, and I did get an opportunity to, yeah, I'm happy to remove.
I think that was lower. It originally was larger or something, and you were explaining it's really not a the 3rd floor is not really the 2nd floor.
Correct. Yep. But again, I'm happy to remove. I don't think it makes.
Okay.
Mr. Romano, can I just ask for clarification on that? Is that on both applications?
Yes.
Or is it on
Yes.
one of both applications?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
But the variance for the second platform will remain, 2nd story of 14.12?
Yes, because that's at grade level through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, that's like off a main room, a kitchen, or a dining area or family room. And then the 3rd platform, which is really 2nd, which you had said you would reduce to less than 10 meters at planning's request, you're now asking that the highlighted portion, you're asking to remove that, eliminate.
Correct.
That. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please, I don't know, please continue, or I guess we were in the middle of
no, we can't really do much about traffic. You know, the number of occupants per dwelling, you're gonna two dwellings on a lot is not gonna affect traffic. So I believe I have addressed all the items that relate to the variance applications and the consent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Romano, or for that matter, any follow-up questions for the neighbors, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
I'll weigh in, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Taylor, thank you.
Firstly, with respect to the consent, I'm satisfied that the proposed lots fit in with the fabric in the immediate and neighborhood contexts, quite reasonable and compatible. And I would recommend approval of the consent, subject to the conditions of engineering and construction services and transportation services, and the standard conditions of consent. With respect to the requested variances for both parts 1 and 2, I find them to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And for both applications, parts 1 and 2, I would move approval of the revised applications, which are variance numbers 1, 2, 3 revised, 4, 5 and 6 eliminated, 7, 8 with the elimination of, and the 3rd story platform will have an area of 9.9 meters squared. And in both applications, number 9 has been eliminated. So I would move approval of both variance applications, subject to urban forestry condition 2 and ravine and nature feature protection condition 3.
Okay, thank you.
I think I've captured everything.
Okay, is there a second?
Impressive. I'm happy to second that. I also want to mention to the neighbors that if they haven't touched base with the counselor recently, they need to speak to her about a sidewalk. If that's what they want to do, if that's their intention, if they want to have a sidewalk at least on one side of the street, they need to touch base with her again. She's a very busy woman. So you need to make sure you have regular contact and keep lobbying for that. But I'm happy to second that motion.
Yeah, Ms. Alderson, thank you for mentioning that, because I was quite surprised that Ms. Frances Nunziata is one of the only counselors in the city who actually attends our meetings or attends them virtually to make submissions, and she makes that very used to attend in person. So for her not to be present in this, make this figure, it's the pattern of development. But in terms of the larger issue with people using the trail and parking issues and sidewalks, definitely the neighbor should get in touch with her office. ASAP. Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the application? It's unanimous. You have your approval, Mr. Romano. Thank you, neighbors, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Our last item of the afternoon is item number 3740 Stevenson Road. We have a revised notice. This is to convert the existing swimming pool and unused storage lockers into 10 additional dwelling units for a total of 186 residential dwelling units. Planning is in their March 2nd memo has 3 conditions of approval. The most serious thing, this matter was deferred February 10th at the February 10th hearing. We have a memo, a very important memo we've got to deal with the outset from transportation dated February 28th. And in that they state that the application was automatically deferred from the previous February 10th Committee of Adjustment hearing due to the revised zoning review. Although transportation related issues were discussed in our previous January 31, 2020 comments, the deferral was not as a result of these transportation matters, and that no new plans and parking assessments were provided since these comments were issued. Hence, we reiterate our previous concerns in this memorandum. So they're just basically reiterating their concerns to this application. And they're looking for a deferral. We don't really deal with transportation deferrals. We deal with the planning ones at the outset. But in the additional plans, we have received, I think, a site plan and stats. So we want to hear if that does that satisfy the transportation memo. And the speaker on this application, who we're going to assign that task to, is Andy Verheil. So the question is, as a professional planner, are we still supposed to be, according to transportation, reviewing, deferring this, or are they satisfied?
Hello, this is Andy Verhill from ABA Design Studio. I'm the applicant, the agent, and the applicant for this study. So we have received an updated notice from transportation dated March 8th.
Okay.
And in the through the comments and in the last so in the last statement given to the above, we have no objection to the subject minor variance application from the development planning and review perspective. And this is from Luigi Nicoloci.
Yeah, who had originally written the deferral and memo that highlighted what I just read out. So that has now at the 11th hour, I guess, been resolved by what you submitted.
Correct. We had some revisions done. There was some question about semantics for our planning study that we had HDR prepare for us. We had a clarification that there is no additional excessive parking in the existing as well as in the proposed. Our parking study shows that we are actually in surplus of 39 spaces. For the 76 units, 3 were vacant at the time. So this study was prepared during almost complete occupancy of the property.
Yes, and obviously adding 10 additional dwelling units in this climate in the city, which I assume will be relatively affordable units, as you know, and getting rid of unused pools and storage areas is certainly the way to go. So kudos to you and your client on that.
Thank you.
Members, any questions for Mr. Verheil or someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Badismo is ready to weigh in for motion if there are no further questions.
Sorry, Palmer here. I had a question. Sir, are you okay with the conditions requested by the planning department?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. I was gonna ask the same question. I'm glad you did. I find this proposal is representative of what we should see more of, because a lot of places are just tearing down high rise and going for double height and affecting a lot of existing tenants. So I applaud the approach. It will not impact negatively on the neighborhood because the building basically stays as is. It's an internal rehabilitation program. So I would like to support this motion for approval. Sorry, on the conditions established by planning, which the applicant's saying he's okay with.
Okay, so your motion is to approve subject to the planning conditions. I don't believe there's any other conditions. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Palmer? All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Verheil.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And members, I guess that's our last application, so a motion to adjourn.
Happy to make that one.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Taylor, and 5:07.
Can you
So,
imagine if we hadn't deferred all those applications where we'd be here until 8 o'clock?
could be.
I'm sure of it.
Okay. Okay, have a great evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, committee members. Thank you, Michael.
As usual, congratulations or kudos to those behind the scenes, to Paul and Adam,
Yes,
working
for sure.
on the council chamber all by themselves.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
members.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Take care.
Be well.
You too.